Hi, everybody. We are recording a little video for you about 20 ways that you can get communication right with your teenager. And I'm going to go straight ahead. This is for the parents. We are talking about teenagers and we are talking about their, shall we say, difficulties with understanding us and understanding each other. So let's see what we can learn. Right, the name of the ebook is 20 Steps Up While Calming Yourself Down. And you can get this on my website by just going to lawrencebreitenbach.com and you'll find it right there on the front page. It says 20 Steps Up While Calming Yourself Down, and the full title is Support for Parents, Teachers, and Leaders, Preparing Young People for a Difficult World. This is really my attempt to get a little bit more understanding between adults and young people. So let's kick off. I'm going to go through about 10 of them. We don't have time to talk through the whole lot. I'm going to switch my unshaved face off so that you can see, and let's get into it. So the first way to calm yourself down and to take a step up is for us to say, let's really start talking to our teenagers. This issue is 20 steps, there's 100, but let's not overwhelm ourselves. The opening essay is all about the four-way misunderstanding. You know, when we go to study to become teachers, we really spend a lot of time learning that there's four barriers. And what you want to say, what comes out of your mouth, what the teenager hears, and what you finally find in their brains, what they understand of what you said, is four different things. So there's a four-way misunderstanding. And to overcome this, we have to be very clear when we communicate, and we have to watch the way we speak. It says here, we have become so afraid of fighting and speaking passionately that we now don't talk to one another at all. So there's a dichotomy of two problems. The first one is we don't want to fight, but that causes conflict. Does that make sense? Because we're not talking, you have problems. However, we are now, when we talk, so careful and afraid of fighting. Ooh, I don't want to offend anyone. I want to be woke. I want to be very careful. I want to be politically correct. That we don't talk straight. Even now, when you hear my voice, you might go, what are you on about? You know, I always say the kids, this is Jerry Seinfeld's line. I'm not as good as he is, but he's like, the parents are always saying, calm down, sit down. Why don't you just pipe down? Settle down. And the kids are like, get up, wake up, hurry up. You know, it's up and down. So, in other words, what are we what are we saying? Real conversations requires us to sometimes raise our voices, but there's a way behind the voice. It's difficult for me to explain this, so I'm going to go ahead. Maybe it comes through. The point is, don't be afraid to raise your voice. We can speak clearly and loudly without shouting. We can speak our minds and be a little bit Italian, shall I say. Mamma mia, why don't you listen to me? Okay, that was terrible. I won't do that again. Sorry. Let's let's get into this. By the way, all of this stuff is not made up by me. I've got a lot of research behind what is on the pages here, parents. So if you download this, you'll see there's a lot of information. Number one, talk with them, never at them. Give your full attention, listen and acknowledge before you respond. Never talk down. Now, it's difficult for us sometimes, especially teachers, to keep our voices modulated and keeping it so that the kids get the clear message, but we're not shouting. Nobody likes to be shouted at. I remember when I was at school, I had some teachers that had terrible voices. The worst type is the one that goes through the nose, where you have, ag nee julle, kom nou, bly nou stil. And God bless the woman that had that voice. She's not with us any longer, so I don't have to worry about saying it. Juffrou Eis, ons is baie lief vir jou, but your voice was terrible. She was very good though. I think I got 80% plus for maths because of Juffrou Eis and her nosy voice. Okay, let's move on. A teenager knows, parents, within seconds, whether you're listening or just waiting for your turn to speak. Any child can acknowledge and can see whether an adult is listening to them or not. And it's really important for us to do the real listening. Reflect back what you heard when they say something. Reflect back what they say. Acknowledge. Say, oh, really? Wow. Okay. So tell me more. And you'll be surprised at how much they open up. I have a case study here of a grade 9 boy kept forgetting his homework. And his teacher stopped the lecture one day and she said, walk me through your evening. 10 minutes of listening revealed he was minding 2 younger siblings until 8 p.m. It was never laziness. Once he felt heard, he and the teacher built a workable plan together and the work started coming in. In other words, sometimes there's a really good excuse for the kids not doing what they should. Lower your voice, not your warmth. Never threaten or shout. Speak to them the way you'd speak to yourself at 14. I remember those teachers that had really good voices, and they were sort of telling you a secret. They were going, come, let's listen to this. Guys, this is important. Let's focus on it. Let me tell you about this situation. And then you will go, what is it? What is it? You're like a dog waiting for the ball. Throw the ball, throw the ball. Because they create that mystery, they create that sense of a secret being shared. And it's a real trick. But it's always about us. Come, let's listen to what's going on here. And a calm voice. I don't like the word calm, by the way. I don't know why. I cannot stand it. I think there's a pretentiousness about it, where the word calm is, I'm so calm. But in the meantime, you're a little bit fucked up because you're not being real. You're not being straight with the kids. You're not talking sense. And they're sick of it. They can spot the fakeness and it gets to them. So we have to have a real kindness. You have to say, come, let's get this done. Why don't we just stop fooling around now and let's all be sincere? And I won't use the F word again. In fact, I'll edit that out. But in practice, let's look at this. A father used to open every hard conversation at volume. His daughter simply shut down. He tried one change. Same words, half the volume sitting down. I can see you're angry. I'm not going anywhere, she cried. Then talked for the first time in weeks. Nothing about the rules changed, only the temperature. I always tell my story about it, the friend who said, oh, I miss my daughter. When she was small, she used to like me, And I think it's so sad if we lose the connection with our teenagers, even teachers. We stop talking to them as kids and we start shouting at them. As I go in my school, I walk through the passages. I sometimes hear this line from usually, I'm sorry to say, a female teacher who's going, why are you talking? And I go, ma'am, don't ask them a question like that. They will tell you why. And they are thinking why. They are going, ma'am, it's because your lesson is boring and I can't stand your voice. We can't have that, parents, teachers, learners. Let's all get together. And when you read this ebook, it says here, do you find it hard to lower your voice when you're upset? I think there's a lot of passive aggressive behavior in our schools. You see it in traffic. People can't express themselves. And what do? They lose it in traffic. Our teenagers are passive aggressive and they just give up. They become numb. They close up like clams and they don't communicate with us and they just go, I am not here anymore. They stick their head in the sand like ostriches. Ostriches do that and then they think you can't see them. I think that's a myth, however. Number 3, co-author the rules, don't hand them down. I had a long meeting at my school today at a parents' morning. We have parents' mornings now. And this parent, his son is in grade 12, and he sits right in front with me, but he's always tired. He's always half asleep. And I had a conversation with him and his father sitting there. Had a big smile. He really likes English that I teach him. And although I only taught him half of Hamlet this year, because I don't know, the time was just flying, he actually does really well. His essay, he just got 65% for. I think he can get 80 just by tweaking a few things. But when we sat down with the parent and the learner there, and the dad started talking to me and to him, and I said, let's make a few rules. Let's call him Sifo. Sifo, tell me, what's your routine like, my boy? And he's like bashful and shy all of a sudden, and he says, no, sir, I don't have one. I said, okay, well, can you put in a few anchors? You don't have to study for 10 hours. I know your dad makes you study for long sessions. It's not going to work. Here's the plan. You study for an hour, but in the middle, after 25 minutes, you take 10-minute break. You go outside. I know you like soccer, so go kick the ball around outside. Can you do that? And he lit up. His face lit up. And he said, okay. And the dad said, yeah, but that's not enough. I said, no, we do that 3 times. But you peg down when. When he comes home, he's going to eat something, take a break, maybe have a shower. Then he says to himself, I'm going to sit down for 1 hour, study, PM. Then time to watch TV for a while, have dinner. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, here's my anchor. I'm going to sit down at 7 o'clock. I'm going to study for 1 hour. Then it's time to play a game on my PlayStation. Go and sit with the family and watch something together on Netflix. And then 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock comes, say, okay, we're going to put the phone on the charger. All of us. Put the phones on the chargers, no more phones. And everybody agreed. He said, you know what, sir? It's the phone that keeps me up at night. I said, I know, Joe. Do you think you're the only one?
All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to This Explainer, where we are unpacking a truly transformative piece of work by Laurens Breitenbach titled 20 Steps Up. If you are a parent, a teacher, or a leader trying to navigate the incredibly complicated world of teenage communication, you know firsthand just how quickly things can go completely off the rails. So today, we're going to break down Breitenbach's highly practical, evidence-backed guide for preparing young people for a difficult world, all while making sure you, the adult, can actually stay calm in the process.
Now, you might be wondering, what's the worst thing that can happen during a conflict with a teenager? Breitenbach's work immediately challenges our standard assumptions here. We usually think that raising our voices and getting into a massive shouting match is the absolute worst possible outcome. But Breitenbach points out that what actually damages relationships isn't the volume of an argument, it's silence. It's that quiet resentment that just kind of simmers and morphs into passive aggression. Because when we get so terrified of being accused of attacking, we just stop talking altogether. And that is where the real disconnect happens.
To fix that, we're going to walk through a focused roadmap today. We'll start with the four-way misunderstanding, shift into validating before you advise, look at fixing how we speak, then building trust and agency, navigating the technology reality, and finally, rebuilding connection through ritual. Let's get to it. Starting right at the beginning with Section 1, the four-way misunderstanding, also known as the quiet standoff. Picture this. Right now, there is a quiet standoff happening in almost every community. You've got teens, parents, teachers, and school leaders who all genuinely want the exact same thing, right? The absolute best outcome for the young person. But because everyone is talking past each other and constantly afraid of stepping on toes, this massive wall just goes up. And the teenager? Well, they get caught squarely in the middle. They're receiving 4 entirely different types of pressure, but 0 feeling of actually being understood. And honestly, that lack of understanding is the core problem we have to solve first.
Which brings us to the most fundamental paradigm shift of this entire explainer. Section 2, validate before you advise, which is really the core rule. You know that hardwired instinct we all have as adults? A teenager comes to us with a problem, and boom, we instantly want to jump in and solve it, fix it, give advice, make it go away. But Breitenbach argues we have to hit the brakes. The new rule is validate and listen. You have to receive before you react. There's this great example in the source of a student who totally bombed a test. Now, the teacher could have easily delivered the usual lecture about studying harder. Instead, the teacher simply said, "Man, that's a rough result after all the hours you put in. Tell me what happened." By receiving the feeling first, the student felt safe enough to admit he'd actually studied the wrong section entirely. The advice delivered after that validation landed perfectly. If the teacher had started with advice, it would have just bounced right off. And the really crucial point here is that this isn't just about being nice. It's grounded in literal adolescent brain development. The emotional centers in a teenager's brain literally fire faster than their prefrontal cortex can pump the brakes. So borrowing from Dr. Daniel Siegel's brilliant concept of name it to tame it, just acknowledging a feeling is what physically calms their nervous system down, because a threatened brain simply cannot learn, period. And remember, validating an emotion doesn't mean you're approving of bad behavior. It just means you are creating the psychological safety they actually need in order to hear you. So how do we build this into our everyday interactions? Let's move to Section 3, fixing how we speak, focusing on tactical execution. First things first, Breitenbach highlights that we've got to break some bad habits rapidly, starting with language that quietly wounds. Sarcasm, for instance. A developing brain often just reads that as sheer contempt. Comparing them to a sibling or a peer, that literally teaches them they aren't enough, and it aggressively corrodes trust. But look closely at that third bullet, the word just. Saying things like just concentrate or just bite the bullet. It completely shrinks their very real struggle into a dismissive choice. In the text, there's a powerful story of a boy completely paralyzed by the prospect of starting his assignments. You just need to concentrate never worked for him. But his teacher dropped the word just and said, "Hey, let's write only the first sentence together." Acknowledging that simply starting was the true obstacle was exactly what got him moving. To replace all that wounding language, Breitenbach gives us a fantastic mental checklist to run through before we even open our mouths. He calls it the reconnect rule. 1. Calm. Your nervous system sets the tone for the entire room. 2. Curious. Ask real questions instead of delivering verdicts. 3. Respectful. Treat them as a whole person, not some project to be managed. And 4. Present. Give them your undivided attention, which means phones face down. The source shares this amazing story of a deputy principal who stopped giving out warnings to a student who was repeatedly late and swapped to curiosity instead. He said, "I'm not cross. I'm just curious. What's making mornings so hard?" It turned out the boy was walking to school, and simply moving his first period class fixed the attendance issue entirely. And we can't forget physical posture. To a teenager, face-to-face communication feels exactly like a high-pressure interrogation. But side by side, that just feels like company. If you are constantly getting one-word answers in the living room, take them out to neutral ground. One father realized this and started taking his son on Saturday errands in the car. With absolutely no demanding eye contact, just staring out the windshield together, the car suddenly became the confessional that the living room never, ever was. As we repair how we speak, we can finally start constructing autonomy. Section 4, building trust and agency, focusing on autonomy and boundaries. Here's the deal. You can't just hand down a massive wall of rules and expect instant buy-in. You have to co-author them. Think about handing over a brand new smartphone. Before that box is even opened, draft a concrete agreement together. Where does the phone charge at night?
What are the actual consequences of breaking the rule? Write it up and have them sign it. Rules made with teenagers get followed because they feel a sense of ownership. Rules made at them, that just breeds instant resistance. And right alongside those rules is the incredibly tricky concept of privacy. Hear this clearly because it's a game changer. Constant checking backfires. Intrusive monitoring doesn't make a teenager safer, it literally just teaches them how to hide things better. Privacy is a true developmental need, so use it as the currency of earned trust. For example, one parent stopped nagging about homework and instead made a very clear trade. They said, "Finish your work, and the evening is entirely yours. Your room, your time, I won't even knock." Giving them the leverage of unbroken private time builds genuine, self-regulated motivation. And of course, when they inevitably slip up, because they will, change how you handle the discipline. Point out what they are specifically really good at so they have a positive identity to anchor to, but let the natural consequence do the actual teaching. There's an anecdote in the text about a gifted debater who just kept missing his deadlines. His teacher made sure to name his rare strength for thinking on his feet, but importantly, she did not rescue him when a late project cost him real marks. The lost marks stung, absolutely, but there was no shouting match. And guess what? The next project arrived perfectly on time because genuine accountability had finally taken root. Next, we need to address the modern elephant in the room. Section 5, Navigating the Technology Reality by Flipping the Script. Let's all be brutally honest with ourselves for a second here. If you were 14 years old right now and you had a smartphone with an infinite, algorithmically optimized feed designed by thousands of brilliant engineers, would you have been addicted to? Absolutely. No question. This isn't a weak generation. They are facing an unprecedented pull that literally no adult ever had to master during their own youth. We really need to trade our moral high ground for empathy and solidarity. The source refers to this reality of access as letting them see the pyramids. Think about it. You wouldn't fly a kid all the way to the pyramids of Giza and then make them sit in the hotel room. If you buy a gaming console or a smartphone, you cannot forbid the very world it opens up. Your job isn't to withhold the device, it's to teach wise use and self-regulation. One teacher actually won his entire class over by openly admitting he'd lost an hour to short videos the night before. By admitting his own struggles with scrolling, he earned their buy-in, and the class willingly built their own focus rules together. Finally, we come to the real long-term work. Section 6, Rebuilding Connection Through Ritual, the long game. Repairing a damaged relationship with a teenager is a marathon, not a sprint. And let's just be honest. At first, it is going to be incredibly awkward, but it's going to be uncomfortable until it's comfortable. You literally just have to outlast the awkward energy. Don't force a deep, heavy conversation. Just sit with it. There's a beautiful example provided of a father who just sat quietly in his son's doorway for 10 minutes every single night. Now, the first week was excruciatingly awkward, but by week 3, the son just started opening up completely on his own. The discomfort was literally the doorway to connection. You do this by normalizing shared, quiet spaces. Teenagers often fill every single waking moment with audio because silence feels scary to them. Your job is to make quiet feel safe again. Have dinners with no phones. Keep the radio off on the drive to practice. Establish consistent low-pressure rituals. Even if it feels totally one-sided at first, your consistency sends an incredibly powerful, quiet message. I will reliably show up for you. And underneath all of this, the core fuel for this entire approach is empathy. Seriously, remember the sheer crushing weight of being 15? The anxiety, the immense social pressure? Today's teens have all of that, plus a device in their pocket broadcasting it 24/7 to the entire world. When you remember your own adolescent anxiety, it becomes your empathy engine. It totally shifts your mindset from demanding absolute compliance to offering compassionate, sturdy guidance. So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. What weekly ritual could you start this month? Just one small, quiet move to relearn how to sit safely in silence and reconnect with the teenager in your life. The conversation is waiting for you.
Okay, this is part 2. We are talking to teens And we are looking at rule number 3, parents. Now, we said co-author the rules. Don't hand them down. Now, it's really magical to see the difference between when a parent just gives the rules. If I say, you go to bed, then you go to bed. Damn it, I'm the man in the house. I'm the woman in the house. You are living under my roof. If you want to eat tonight, you'll do as I say. No, I'm just kidding. Relax. What I'm trying to what I'm trying to say is it's magical if you work with your teen and you say, listen, you're a big girl now. You're a big boy. You're a young man. Can we make a few rules? Let's sit down and discuss this. You decide when you study. You know what's right. And research shows if you have a phone problem, parents, there's a link in the description to a paid program called the Homework Truce. It's only $27. It's a 1 week reset of your house, sorting out the phone problem, getting up in the morning, going to sleep at night, doing homework. Without fighting, I will show you within 100 pages and 1 week, you will not believe the results you get. There's my sales talk for this evening. But seriously, if you have a problem, I'll share the one truce secret with you. You cannot say, give me your phone. I'm going to take it and you go to bed. You are going to have a fight. You're going to have a massive fight on your hands. Don't do it. What you say, and teenagers, you will agree with me. We say, I'm going to put my phone on the charger at 9 o'clock. Why don't you do the same? Let's call it quits on the phones for tonight. We'll do a phone contract for this house. You get off your phone, I get off mine. We are both dopamine addicts. Let's make a plan, okay? Here's a phone contract idea for you. One family drafted a one-page contract 2 weeks before the phone arrived. Charging station in the kitchen, 9 p.m., hand in. No devices behind a locked door. Doesn't that sound good? The son helped write these consequences himself. When he slipped a month later, there was no argument. He'd signed it. If you sign it, it's a law in this house now. He knew the deal, and he handed the phone over. The agreement did the discipline for them. There's a video that I'll show you a link for in the description, and leave some comments, please. I would love to know what people say about this. I get some very harsh comments. People say, listen, what do you know? Okay, please. This is all for a good cause. There's a chain reaction. You don't go to bed. You lie on your phone. 12 o'clock at night, you're wide awake. You're absolutely activated, adrenaline pumping, because you're on the tick-tocker. 3 o'clock in the morning, you pass out. Now you have to get up at 5. You have to be at school at 7. It's not going to work. You don't have an appetite. You're not going to eat breakfast. So now there's a sleeping problem. There's a waking up problem. There's a diet problem. What is the cause? Phones. Telephone. Smartphone. Not the so smart. Okay. Make a contract with your kid. Let them decide the rules. Here's a big one, number 4. Validate before you advise. What does validate mean? It sounds so up in the air. Well, it means listen. Listen before you fix. Receive before you react. Aristotle said it was at Plato, and he just asked questions. He never gave him any answers. Rhetorical questions. It says here, I'll read a bit. This is the rule that holds all the others together. When a teenager brings you a problem, the instinct is to solve it in one move. Resist it. Imagine a friend said something really mean to your child. Don't give advice right away. First, acknowledge the feeling. That sounds genuinely unfair. I had a chat with my nephew the other day. And he was talking about some problem that he had. And I said to him, so tell me more. What happened? He said, this and this and this and that. And I said, yes. So what are you going to do? And he thought for a minute and he told me his plan. I never said a thing. If I now went, now let me be the uncle, I'm going to now be the one telling you the advice. Okay, I do give them too much advice when I see them. I don't think they like it. Teenagers don't like being given advice. Although sometimes I must say it's a good idea to listen sometimes, boys. Just, give the uncle a chance, for God's sake. Right. The sequence looks like this. If a learner, and there's an example, a learner failed a test and expected the usual speech. Instead, the teacher said, that's a rough test result after the hours you put in. Tell me what happened. You see? What went wrong? Why don't you tell us? Because the feeling was received first, the boy admitted he'd studied the wrong section. Oh, wow. It can happen. Advice given after that landed, advice given before it would have bounced. So, all right, let's do a retest. Let's learn a lesson from this. Be sure what to study. Okay. And here's a reflection question for you, parents. Should teenagers be trusted to solve their own problems? At what age do you teenagers to now decide what the rules are? Some teenagers, especially girls, very precocious, and they know they are more mature than boys. Very early, they know what's right and what's wrong. Let them make the decision. And if there's consequences, then it's consequences for their decision. Okay. Number 5. I'm not going to do all of them, but we see how far we get. Let the silence sit. Don't storm the mood. What does this mean? Let's have a look. When they go quiet, lead with compassion. Don't interrogate the silence. When a teenager is upset and withdrawn, the worst opener is, what's wrong? Why won't you talk to me? I don't get why you're ignoring me. See, this is a parent that's not going to have a successful chat with this teenager. It's like in relationships, guys. If you say, what's wrong, lovey? Then they go, nothing. You're not going to get far. It's going to be a difficult day. So what should we do? You want to release the pressure. Look at this. Allow them the mood they are in. Sit near, stay calm, let them come back on their own terms. Tell them, I'm here when you're ready. You need not tolerate it forever, but compassion comes first, and the conversation comes second. If you just hang around and you say, okay, I can see you're in a mood. I can see you're not doing great right now. I can see it. I acknowledge it. I want to go make some coffee for myself. Would you like some? I'm going to go make some tea. Would you like some? Okay. And this booklet is full of advice like this, parents. You just go to my website. I'll put the link right in there. And this is all yours. There's 20 tips. Let's skip a few. I like this one. The language that wounds. I always have to teach my teenage learners the difference between sarcasm and satire. And when I explain sarcasm, I always say it's the biting comment. It's that snide comment where you go, you're very clever, aren't you? You think you're so clever. Well, let me tell you a thing or two, mister. It doesn't work with teenagers. It goes straight over their heads and they don't like it. They don't appreciate it. They don't fall for it and they won't react. They will just think that you are an asshole and that you are being unfair and rude. It's just not going to work. So leave the sarcasm unless you have very, very good relationship and you can tease your child. You go, hey, professor, you're going to give me a lecture now. Then they will snap out of it. But you have to have that relationship first. It's not easy. And we please, parents, do not compare siblings. Do I have to explain that? You know, if you were compared to your sibling, please comment in this section underneath the video here. I would love to know your story. Tell me the short version. I would love to hear it. But yeah, we're not going to be sarcastic. I do know my kids tell me everything in class. Say, why can't you be more like your sister? I had a conversation, like I said in the part one, with a dad and his son. And the dad, I promise you, this is the truth. The dad said, yeah, his sister is now doing her honors degree at the University of Johannesburg. And so I have very high expectations from him. And I looked at him and I said, sir, do you know on how many levels that is now making your son angry? First of all, he's never going to be able to compete because I taught the sister too. She has much more ability than he has in terms of studying. No offense. He has a more practical side. He's a hands-on guy. He wants to do physical things. He'll probably turn out to be a fantastic mechanic. Electricians get paid more than teachers. And I gave him the advice. I don't know if he's going to take it. But it is unfair to compare the sister to the brother. She has a different life. She has a different set of rules. Perhaps she could help by sitting him down and saying, okay, why don't we design your study plan together? Because I was in matric only 3 years ago. Let me show you what I did. And this is what didn't work. And this is what's going to work in terms of time. And Mr. Breitenbach is right. Don't sit and study for 5 hours. After 3, nothing goes in. Number 8, stop snooping. Privacy is the deal. Now, what on earth do I mean with this? Privacy is the deal. Parents, I was writing a book on being a teenager, and I'm calling it Teen Transformation. It's not on Amazon yet. It will be probably before 2027 starts. Teen Transformation is the book's name. I can show you the cover. Teen Transformation, a parent's guide to the years when everything changes. And it's all about confidence, discipline, study skills, and emotional resilience. You will see a link in the description in which I explain how you can get the first chapters for free, and I hope that you will support the book. It's a good read because it's based on a ton of research. If you have youngsters in the house, you want to get your hands on that. I was shocked by what I learned. I'll make a video to introduce the book properly. But stopping the snooping, parents, it is massive, because when I wrote the book, it dawned on me that privacy is the one thing that teenagers crave the most. Privacy is a massive commodity. If you can put a system in place where you guarantee the privacy of a teenager, you can achieve anything. You can get anything out of them. That's all they want. Give them their time off in their room alone. Let them be online as a reward. Let them be on their phone as a reward. It can't be the norm. It can't be that they are doing nothing in the room all day with the phone. That's not a balanced life. They should be learning. They should be outside. They should be playing. They should be doing sport. They should be at school. Our teenagers that are spoiled by their parents, I'm sorry to say this, if the shoe fits, please put it on. Our permissive parents are spoiling their kids, and it's always about giving them too much freedom to do whatever they like. And then they get upset, they get depressed. There should be a balance between how much involvement there is from your side, and like you said, make the rules with them. But one of the no-nos, parents, is snooping. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you up to? Let them be. Privacy is the deal. Constant checking backfires. Privacy is the thing they want most. Treat it as earned trust. There's a whole chapter in this book. It's only a 30-pager. In fact, it's 26 pages. I see here 26 pages. It's jam-packed, and there's examples. I'll read you this one. A parent quietly checked her son's phone each night until he found out and went fully underground. She changed tack. I won't read your messages. In return, you keep your grades and your curfew. Given real privacy, he actually came to her when something online unsettled him. Surveillance had bought silence. Trust bought honesty. Your son, your daughter will come to you and say, I'm sorry, I saw this awful video. I need you to change the settings. In fact, I'm going to change it myself, Mom. And you were right. But then it should be from them. It should be their decision. Here's a reflection question. Is the teen's bedroom door open or closed when they're studying? I think if you've seen my videos before, you know how I feel about this one, parents. My feeling is very clear. Study time is open door time, and the phone is not in the room. When they've done their 3 hours with a 10-minute break in the middle, then they've been dopamine loading, they've been waiting for it, then they can study for 3 hours, and after that they can enjoy being on their phone for the time that you decide together. Right, we're going to skip a few here. Oh, this is an insight I got. And I thought to myself, why are teenagers so addicted? I do not understand it. Why are they so obsessed with their technology? And then it dawned on me that I would be addicted too. You see, the thing is, when I was a teenager, we didn't have this. I wanted a Mario Brothers Game Boy. I would have sold my soul to the devil. That's just an expression. Please don't post about that and tell people I'm a devil worshipper. I would have done anything to get one of those little Donkey Kong machines. And when I did get one, I wasted a year. And I was a first-year student. I had to do my courses twice. I think I'll edit that out too. But seriously, picture yourself at 15 with today's technology. You'd be hooked exactly like them. Here I am. I'm 55 this year. I've been a teacher for 30 years, and I'm addicted to my computer now. If I get home, I sit and I'm making videos now. I'm writing books. I'm addicted to AI. It's just, it's an insatiable obsession of mine to keep learning more and more. Because for me, every time I click that button and the little bits of info start rolling, I just lose it. So I'm honest. I'm a dopamine addict too. And I have to physically limit myself to a few hours a day, just like your teenager has to. Please understand them. Their addiction is real. And parents, if you study addiction, I did a 2-year course in the United States in the year 2000, and I did it in 1 year. And it was a chemical dependency counseling. And the course, the first thing they tell you is not that it's a chemical problem. It is an addiction, and the definition of an addiction is it is a disease of the mind and an allergy of the body. That doesn't make sense. Alcoholism is a disease of the mind and an allergy of the body. If you think about dopamine, our body does everything it can to store it. It's supposed to be a very rare commodity. It's supposed to be something that is excreted from the brain only once in a while, so that you have the wonderful feeling. Serotonin, feel-good drugs. So our bodies become allergic to it, just like we become allergic to insulin and you become a diabetic. It's an allergy of the body. We become resistant to it. And a disease of the mind, dis-ease of the mind, which means it's an illness. So by giving your phone or your child a phone, buying them the new Apple, and just giving it to them and say, go for it, congratulations on grade 9, is a mistake. You should make a serious set of rules. And the research shows it should be done weeks before the phone is given. Right, I think that's it for this video. Shall we do one more? Okay, number 13, name the strength, then show the consequence. This is the one I put in almost last. It says, point to what they're good at, let real consequences, not lectures, do the teaching. So when it comes to naming the strength, we always have to say something positive. We are even taught when we do parents' evenings, when we are trained as teachers, say something positive. Even if the child is not doing well, then you say, well, he always greets me properly. He always has a friendly greeting when he comes into the class. It is shown. It's just now he needs to learn to be on time. That's all. So when we say something negative, first preface it by saying something positive too. Let me read a bit here. 2 things every teenager needs from the adults around them: to know their genuine strengths and to meet honest consequences. Name the strength specifically so they can build an identity on something solid. Then say, you can choose to relax today, but if you don't get the assignment done, what will the consequences be? One of my students is now a teacher at the school, and I won't mention her name. She will not appreciate me sharing the story, but I'll tell the story anyway. And she came to see me yesterday, and she said, "So I didn't want to come and talk to you because I'm going to cry because I've got problems." I said, "Okay, but you have to tell me now. I'm seriously curious now." And then she told me the story, and I said, "Well, it's not so bad. You're going to be fine." And then I reminded her that she solved the problem last week without any help, a massive problem, a serious problem. She figured it out herself. And I missed the whole conversation when she was asking for advice. And in the end, she just said, "Okay, don't worry. I've figured it out. Everything's fine now." And I went, "Okay, great. You go. Woo woo." Thank God I didn't have to worry about it. So, so she figured it out herself. And she's in her early 20s now. But I told her, you have the uncanny ability to solve problems. You have the maturity that I never had at your age. And she was like, "Oh, thank you, sir." I said, "Okay." There was another student that's actually a student now, studying to become a teacher, who was also one of my learners. We like getting the old students back, and we encourage them to come and visit us. She is now an honors degree graduate in counseling, and she's becoming an English teacher. And she is doing really well as a student right now. We are using her in all kinds of situations where she's helping us out. She's a born teacher, born professional. I'm so proud of her. And I said to her, I'm going to tell you something now that you must never forget. And I said to her, you have the voice, you have the demeanor, and you have the energy of a teacher. You were like that at school already. And her eyes went this big. And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." She said, that just made my day. I said, "Okay, great. Just remember that now. Buy me some biltong. Name the strength, then show the consequence."